All right, welcome to Guest Spotlight, and we've had a lot of guests on in the past, and I am very thankful for all of them. But this is one that I've been very excited about, and probably our most famous guest ever. So more famous than me, which actually is not very hard to do. So I'd like to welcome to the show Steve Johnston. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Uh, Probably everybody knows Steve Johnston, but for the 8 people who don't, he is the toy expert on Pawn Stars. He's also formerly with Rogue Toys, and also now is you've moved on to sports cards, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, I'm doing some stuff with a company called Game Day Sports Cards here in Las Vegas. They just opened a new store located across the street from the Raiders practice facility in Henderson,
That's awesome.
and it's amazing. And it's got a beautiful recording studio in it. And we actually started a podcast. I don't know, 3 weeks, month ago or so, and got that started called the Game Day Huddle. So on their team doing some marketing and investment advice for the sports card and collectible world. So
And that is definitely a market that, I mean, we've talked about sports cards on this podcast a few times, and whoa, that is a market that has just exploded. Like investment level, purchasing. I mean, there are things that sell in the sports card market for 6 figures quite regularly at this point in time.
it's an incredible thing that I've seen, and that world has really taken off. Um, and you have to understand too, and since obviously we're on with you guys in grading, like the grading world for sports cards was so far ahead of toys and other things, and so they've had time in that world to like really build that in to become a consistent thing in the market. Like the graded card market is the market now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you buy the raw card to grade it,
To Yep, to get graded.
you
I
know.
agree.
And so I think that's really what's done that. And so you've conditioned people to understand the quality of value increase behind the grading aspect. So
Right. Yeah, and it's amazing. And we'll get on. I do want to kind of like go back to the whole toy side, but to that point, it is amazing how, like, you look at what raw cards, even vintage raw cards, are pretty affordable, and then they just scale up when it comes to grading, and people are starting to see that in toys, um, but in cards it is absolutely clear as day. It's pretty unique.
yeah, I'd say just on a personal level there, I think what really like piqued my interest in grading with cards was I started chasing Joe Montana rookies
Okay.
because the difference between like a dead mint, like you think it's a 10 Joe Montana rookie raw, and a graded 10 by one of the top grading companies out there, you're talking that card's $30,000 graded as a 10, and it might be $400 as a raw ungraded. Like
Yeah.
the market can just absolutely explode in the grading element on it just because the population report tells you it's just so hard to get that card graded. So I've ran around for years and I've bought, you know, hand collated sets from sports card shops that have this much dust on the top of them that have been sitting on their shelves for 20 years, and gone through and picked out the Montanas and tried grading, and the highest I've graded 1.8
Really.
Wow.
Montana. But the
Wow.
problem is that card is always off centered. I've bought packs,
Okay.
I've bought cello packs, I've done I've tried any angle and possible to see if I can pull a mint Montana, and just haven't had that luck, but maybe someday. Yeah.
So, do you think it's really hard to predict how things are going to grade out with card grading? Because it sounds like you found ones that you thought would grade a 10, but they're coming back an 8. Is it, like toys, for instance? I think I can look at, I'm also own a grading company, so maybe that's part of it. But, I can look at most toys and say, yeah, this is an 80, 85, and 99 times, 90 times out of 100, I'll be right. But it seems like the grading with cards isn't as predictable.
The thing with cards is that it's not only the fact that you're grading like the used element of the face of the card, surface and creases and stuff like that. You're also grading the sharpness of the corners and exactly measuring the borders. And
Right.
that border measurement, when you get into some of this stuff, is the biggest factor. you will have stuff with dead perfect corners, but it's a little bit off center. And something I picked up recently, I thought I had it and I could show you, but I picked this up recently, and actually this was kind of a fun thing. I did this on TikTok. Was I picked it out of a record store here in Las Vegas. I caught it in the background of a picture in a case that someone posted. They were out hunting for something, and this was in there. And it was an original Garbage Pail Kids Series 1 Nasty Nick, which is the card from that set.
Right.
And it's a 9 off center. And what they've done is they realize that the off center cards in the Garbage Pail Kid world is so rampant that they're willing to give a high grade with a designation to say it's common to see this, and I was able to pick that card off. Well, that's another, that type of card or those type of things, they're just so hard to come by and so hard to find something that's perfectly centered. So when you get a card that all of a sudden hits in that PSA 10 mark, or a BGS 9.5 that, is just a pristine card, that they're in the vintage and older stuff, it is so hard to find. Yeah. And it's like hitting 85s with you guys, right?
Is there a significant price difference between a 9 off center versus a straight 9?
Not a tremendous difference. You're talking, you might be looking $800 to $900 for the off center, and you're probably looking at about $1,000 to $1,100 for.
Okay, yeah, that's not
But that's specific to Garbage Pail Kids, right? Because I heard that an off center qualifier, almost a 9 off center would be priced like a 7 when it comes to like sports cards. It's kind of how I've
they generally don't off center grade the sports card stuff as much anymore. Because you had a bunch of guys, and it's the condition of the collector, right? We don't have guys that have just sat on cases and cases and cases of old vintage toys to then just pull out down the road because they wanted to have mint stuff. But we have guys in the sports card world that since the late 70s have been going out and buying full boxes of stuff and sitting on it as an investment to later down the road bring it out and give people an opportunity to rip that open.
Interestingly, we know someone that we were talking to for a while is a potential customer who has a vault, right? Took investments from folks to pull together money and has a vault of like $3 million worth of sealed boxes of stuff for the exact same purpose. And I don't know if he actually plans to rip them at some point as opposed to holding for investment. But that's what this stuff has become, an investment vehicle. Well, certainly.
No, it totally is. And the thing is that a sealed box of cards with speculation that you might hit something that might grade high will go for tens of thousands of dollars for a card that if it is that perfect, you find that unicorn, that it's going to be, $100,000 card. Guys are not afraid to pull the trigger on it,
It's just crazy because of how hard a 10 is, especially like, you look at the stuff in the 80s where the quality was, quality was better than the 70s, better than the 60s, but you don't pull an 80 out of a pack, an 80. You don't pull a 10 out of a pack typically, in some of that older stuff. You just don't.
No, especially, you had a ton of factors. You had the wax packs, right? So wax, on cards itself. You had bubble gum with a lot of those cards. So because the bubble gum, you had gum stains, you had, those things. The gum residue moving around in the pack can actually get in and affect the surface of cards. And then the fact there just was no quality control on cuts.
Right.
So you factor all of that in, and that explains to you. And even you think, like, I know my childhood, like 89 Upper Deck baseball, like we were chasing Ken Griffey Juniors. I challenge you, seriously, buy the next 10 boxes you can of low series Upper Deck baseball, crack as many packs as you can, and try to find a perfect Griffey. And buy factory sets and do the same thing.
Yep.
You won't find it. You'll find a perfect card. It'll be the most beautiful card in the world. And you'll be like, this is perfect. And you'll flip it around, and that little tiny hologram on the back of it will have a chip on the corner.
It's
that's
crazy.
What I've heard from collectors that it's almost fool's gold to try and buy the boxes in order to find a perfect pack. You're better off buying a mint raw card, individual card, and then grading as opposed to just trying to find opening packs.
That's what's happening with the new world. The new world is about guys are cracking stuff and hunting down those cards, and then guys are running in and trying to buy it from them raw so they can grade it. So you're seeing that a lot. That's really helped with the world of breakers, which if you're not too familiar with that, a quick synopsis of that is that, guys are out there breaking product. Like we break product at game day, and basically you buy into a box break, a percentage of it, or a team in the case of sports, and you're going to get everything from that team in that box. And you're buying teams at different levels based on what projected can come out. But we've seen some absolute just crazy things happen. Like we just had a half case break of some 2021 Absolute Football that they're supposed to be these kaboom cards that are one per case. And in a half case break, we hit 3 kabooms and another case hit.
Wow.
So in 6 boxes, we hit 4 case hits in 6 boxes. It was the most insane break ever. And you're talking, one of them was a Joe Burrow that probably is as it stood, a $10,000 card. And if it grades a 10, which probably won't as a kaboom, probably a 9. But if that grades a 10, that's like a $30,000 card. It's probably 25, 20 if it – I mean, and that's, guys are – but that's the thing is that guys are chasing this stuff hard, and the grading world there is just – it's the grading world is ahead of toys, not because just of time, but because of the focal point of the resale value of the product.
Right.
Like, it's not many display collectors anymore, the guys that just display their sports cards up to look at them. Everybody's an investment collector now.
Right.